Welcome back, everyone. Well, as you know, from time to time, we ask the mayor of Saratoga Springs to come in to give us an update on all things Saratoga. So welcome back, Mayor.
Thank you for having me.
Very nice to have you here, as always.
Very nice to be here.
Let's start. I got a bunch of stuff I want to go through. Yesterday was International Women's Day.
Yes.
And, you know, you've been very involved in that here in the city over the years. And, you know, you're a successful business person, woman, mayor. What inspires you about International Women's Day?
International Women's Day is different, I think, than some of the other women's efforts and women's programs that we see. And it's really been a celebration all over New York State that I've been involved with. So that's what's so great about it, is all the women can come together under one roof for that day and celebrate. And so we work very hard to balance our lives successfully. We work very hard to get ahead. There are many countries where there are women leaders already, and we have not accomplished that yet in this country. But I think what inspires me the most is that it's an international focus. So women across the entire world celebrated yesterday this occasion and just sort of said congratulations to each and every one of us for being the successful women that we are. Whether you're a CEO of a company, whether you're the CEO of your home, whether you live across the world or live in this country, we all have that common thread, that we're women and we're mothers and we're business people, and we are, I think sometimes it's important to look at people that are different than you to learn something new. And that's what I try to do each and every day, is figure out, how does that person think? Why is their style so different? What is making them so successful, and what could I learn from them? And also, what can I pay it forward with? I have a lot of teenage girls and girls that come visit me in the office, and we have our junior committee that we work with. And I think women need to remember that they're role models for other girls, and that we have an opportunity here to really make an impact in the next generation.
You know, I think that's so important. You know, in this sort of day and age we live in, there are not a lot of mentors around. You usually hear that associated with men. You know, you said mentor, you know, young men, but women are mentors too, right? And role models.
Yes.
And in this culture, you know, there are not a lot of great examples of that if you just take it on the surface and you just watch videos or something, right? Yeah.
And I've talked to so many different women, and their role models differ depending on their upbringing. You know, sometimes mothers are your first memorable woman in your life, and sometimes that's not a good experience, and sometimes it is. So for those women that's not a good experience, it's harder, you know, to get to find the right mentors in your life to ensure that you're down a path that you want to be.
Yeah, I got you. Some issues in the city recently. You know, I'd like to start. Let's start with the park. The two guys that decided to take a ride on the horse in Centennial Park at 4 in the morning. I don't mean to laugh, but there's a certain sense of humor in that. They were making good on it, but there was something missing.
There was. I talked to the Karen Hagan, the DA, a day or so after this occurred, and this was John Hendrickson and Mary Lou Whitney's gift to the city. So I was particularly heartbroken when I learned that somebody would have the nerve to attempt to ride a gift to the city for our centennial year. And, you know, alcohol was certainly in play, which is a huge problem at 4 in the morning. And they were engineers, too. So I think the DA decided that these two young engineers should put their talents to good use and figure out how to secure that horse up on that stand, so this will never, ever happen again. Yes. So they're going to serve their sentence, but I had asked for 3 things from the DA. 1, I wanted a personal apology to Mary Lou Whitney and John Hendrickson. 2, I wanted community service, because that's what this city lives on, is each other's help and community service. And 3, I wanted to be sure that they watched the video of the Centennial Park donation. And if that didn't get to them, I don't know what would, because that day when Mary Lou Whitney and John Hendrickson donated that to the city was a day that I'll never forget, that's for sure.
Yeah, I remember we covered that, and it was really something. Well, I think your assessment of that whole situation is very fair, by the way, and I wish that they had given that apology. Maybe they will.
I hope they do voluntarily.
Yeah, voluntarily.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you there. Today we covered a story, drug prevention. We got a PR release from your office there that, together with Catholic Charities, that you are taking a stand on helping the community understand how to deal with drug overdose.
Yes, so this is coming from the Prevention Council and the Catholic Charities as a partnership. And anytime that I can lend my voice to supporting some of the nonprofits in our city, I will do that. Because so much of what happens good in the city is coming out of the nonprofits. It's not just government, it's a public-private partnership that we need to really build our community to what we can be proud of. If there are people that are having serious problems with heroin or other drugs, there is going to be a substance that volunteers and our police force and others can learn how to administer to someone who's having an overdose that could actually save their life. So although it's not a solution to a problem, a serious problem, it could actually save their lives and put them into rehab.
Yeah, that drug, I think, is Narcan. Recently you hear about, I'm stunned that we have an epidemic with heroin anyway. People my age were stunned that this drug could become that kind of woven into the fiber of the culture of our young people. But they're also lacing it now with, I can't pronounce the name of the drug, but it's some drug that they're lacing heroin with that makes it so powerful that the chances are better than even that someone will overdose.
Right, and so we have to be very careful because this is right in every community, right? And Saratoga's not immune to this. And we have parents that are living right here that have suffered greatly. Their whole family suffers when this happens to an individual. And so we need to make sure all the school administrators are well versed in this, and college professors and anybody that comes in contact with youth.
I've got you. Just sort of a recap. The hospital went before City Council, wanted to expand, put an office building up. The neighbors didn't like the idea. You had to recuse yourself from the debate. What happened there?
Yeah. Well, the hospital was interested, as the public knows by now, I think, that the healthcare industry, according to the hospital, and I've been on the Hospital Foundation board for 9 years, many years ago, and have done a lot of fundraising for them. It's very important that they keep up with the trends and the times, and we want our hospital to be as successful as possible, right? So a strong medical community is a strong community. And yet, I think it was the location more than anything else that the hospital wanted to build an office building to accommodate their docs. And they wanted it to be within walking distance from the hospital so they could get back and forth easily. See more patients in a day, I would imagine, and be available as needed, either in the hospital or this office building. And yet the office building location that was being recommended by the hospital and was in contract for a purchase from a private developer was in the middle of a really residential neighborhood. And although the hospital complex keeps growing, it was slightly outside what we call the PUD lines. So they were asking for the PUD to be extended to include this one piece of property so they could build their 85,000 square foot office building. The neighbors really had a lot of trouble with this one. And it seems like almost every project that comes before the council these days is quite controversial. But the neighbors felt that it was the wrong location. I don't think they were against the concept, but that the location was going to be a problem for them. And that sufficient traffic studies and whatnot hadn't been done. So I did have to recuse myself. I've had a financial relationship with the hospital as a consultant. And I went to the ethics board. It's the first time in 11 years of my public service that I've had to even ask for an inquiry or even had an inquiry to the ethics board of any sort. And this one really was very clear that they felt that there was a section in the ethics law that this would be completely contrary to, and that I should recuse myself. And I told the ethics board, who works very hard on keeping our city strong and ethical, that I would adhere to whatever decision they came up with after I gave them all the facts. So unfortunately, I did have to recuse myself. I don't like doing that. I've never done it before, and hopefully it won't ever happen again.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. We had heard both, there were a lot of people just talking about it, you know, and the fact that you did have an affiliation with the Hospital Foundation Board. That was the right move to go to the Ethics Committee and get their opinion.
Yeah,
really
it was an opinion at that, and it is advisory, but I did indicate that I thought it was important to follow their lead on this, and there was no question in their mind.
Oh, good.
And, you know, thank God there is an ethical and a review process in place in our city, because can you imagine what I would have been accused of if I had participated in the process towards the vote, and you people then found out later that I was having some sort of financial potential consulting client relationship with the hospital.
Yes, right.
That's crazy. So you hopefully don't have these inquiries often. Otherwise, I don't think you should be a public official in this city. But when you do have them, which I did once in 11 years, I had the ethics board to turn to, and I followed their lead on it.
Well, Mayor, thank you very much for coming in. We'll have you back next month, and considering we've got the 50th anniversary of SPAC this summer, all kinds of other events coming up. I want to talk about the Greenbelt Path, the connecting of all the trails.
Yes.
But thank you for taking the time to come in today.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you as always. See this interview again. You can head to our website, looktvonline.com.